Welcome everybody, welcome to ChangeNOW. My name is Fabien Paget. I am the co-founder and CEO at 17 Sports. 17 Sports is the world's first sports impact company, operating at the intersection of sports, business and purpose. We work with the business of sports, how to embrace purpose as a strategic driver in order to do good and to do well. I'm very excited to be with you today, here today, and to welcome an interesting panel of experts. Today we're going to talk about sports for change, and this section will be divided in two. The first part we will address how sport is tackling the climate change issue, and the second piece will be how sport is useful to build a peaceful world. So before we start and before I introduce you our panelists, I would like you to watch a video and a special message from Tony Estanguet from Paris 2024.
Hi, good morning everyone. 3 years from now, all eyes will be set on France as we stage the Olympic and Paralympic Games, the biggest media coverage event in the world. It's a unique opportunity to show the kind of society we want to live in. At Paris 2024, we sum it up with 3 words: inclusion, health, and environment. First, inclusion. For the first time in history, the Olympic Games will have the same number of female and male athletes. For the first time, we will also have the same logo for the Olympic and Paralympic Games and also the same iconic competition stadiums. Indeed, we believe sport has a unique power to gather people who come from different backgrounds. Second word, health. We want to contribute to engage people into an active lifestyle. Involving people into sport is about fighting sedentary lifestyle, which currently kills 2 million people each year worldwide. And being active is the easiest and the cheapest way to move in big cities and to reduce air pollution, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The last word is environment. We cannot accomplish ambitious society commitments without considering our impact on the environment. That's why we are committed to deliver games which will divide their carbon footprint by 2 and that will support concrete projects all around the world with a positive impact to fight climate change. Our 3 commitments are all connected to each other, and we need all the actors of change to help us have a strong and positive impact with Paris 2024. The Games will not be the answer to every issue, but we will take our part. Staging this event is a unique opportunity to show that change is possible. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Back here. So now I will leave our speakers to introduce themselves. So if you don't mind, please welcome Georgina, Dale, and Lindita. Over to you, Georgina.
Thank you, Fabien. Thank you very much. A pleasure to be with you. I'm Georgina Grenon. I'm Director for Environmental Excellence at Paget 2024.
Thank you. Dale?
Oh yeah, morning everybody. My name's Dale Vince, and I'm chairman of Forest Green Rovers, amongst other things. But I think that's what I'm here to talk about mostly today.
Thank you, Dale. Lindita.
Hi everyone, pleasure to be here. My name is Lindita Xhaferi-Salihu, and I serve at the UN Climate Change Secretariat, currently leading sector's engagement in climate action.
Thank you, Lindita. So before I ask you the question, I think I would like to give a bit of context. So global warming is really putting our planet at risk, and we all agree that we need now collective action to really build a sustainable world. And of course, we all recognize that sport has a really deep impact on the climate change, but also sport has a big power to really drive positive change. So back in December 28, the UN decided to launch the Sports for Climate Action initiatives during the COP24 in Katowice, inviting the sports industry and the sports stakeholders to join forces and to sign up and to take concrete systemic measures to drive concrete change. So I would like to start with you, Lindita, and ask you the question. Can you tell us how did it start with the UN, with the pledge, and what exactly are you doing today to address and to help the different organizations that signed for the climate initiative?
Well, thank you, Fabien. It's a great question. Well, for those of you who may not know, at UN Climate Change, supporting the response to climate change is at the heart of everything we do. We call it inclusive multilateralism. So we know by now that countries cannot do this on their own, so we try to work with everybody else, with all sectors of society to mobilize climate action so that we can meet somewhere in the middle. And what we try to do here, in particular with sports, is really to invite them to come up to the frontier of best practices so that they can work together to identify common challenges and elaborate on some of the questions, but also to help advance that frontier going forward. It's very important to continue to develop what needs to happen to accelerate our transition towards decarbonized economy, and at the same time championing efforts which are already underway. So we have convened a sports sector to come together and really identify what those steps would look like. I think there is a wide realization that market signals are everywhere. You know, we're seeing policy and regulatory and investor landscape around climate change rapidly changing and evolving, and sports want to be ahead of the curve, ahead of the game. If anybody can do it, sports can. And in terms of what we are doing to help, it's again really relying a lot on sports organizations that have already made some progress in their climate agenda, and we see Dale here and Georgina as well as great examples of what needs to happen to ensure that we have a robust climate strategy and sustainability strategy. So what we try to do is really helping them develop that robust strategy, making sure that we're covering everything that we need to cover, but at the same time looking to see how can we build some capacity, because it's not everywhere. And again, this is not a rocket science. It's not a very difficult exercise, but I think it's more like, how do we put solutions in front of people? How do we make sure that we translate the business case so that they are all understanding that doing good for climate is not just good for climate, but it's also good for their own businesses as well. Thank you very much,
Lindita. Georgina, I would like to come to you next. I mean, your ambition at Paris 2024 is really to redefine a new standard of games, and of course to deliver greener games. Can you tell us a bit more about your commitments in regards to the greener commitments you have?
Sure, thanks. As Tony was saying, staging the games is a unique opportunity to prove that change is possible. Yeah. You know, and the commitments are not limited to Paris 2024. The games organizers, this commitment on the environment and climate, they are supported by all stakeholders of the games. Since the bid, these commitments were a condition for the games to take place in Paris. And also, by definition, the changes Paris 2024 is driving find significant leverage through the public and the private stakeholders that by nature enlarge the impact, and go well beyond the games themselves for the games to become an accelerator of the ecological transformation. So our commitments cover all aspects needed to deliver the games, in a different way with much lower impact. Today we're talking, for example, about climate, and our pledge is for these games to have a positive impact on climate. You say, well, okay, fine, that's all nice, but how you do that, right? And well, it started even at the bid when the games were conceived to avoid carbon emissions, to have a model for these games that are emitting less than half than previous summer games. So starts with avoiding, then reducing, try to look for solutions that go, a bit further and make it possible to source your energy in a lower impact way, to work your food in a lower carbon way, your transportation, the buildings that you're building, because we're building very little, but whatever we build low carbon. And also the temporary infrastructures, incorporate circular economy principles so that you lower the impact. So in every single part of the games delivery include, climate objectives. To the point that actually we have set up for ourselves an objective not to trespass, a limit of emissions that these games should have. And we're monitoring the progress every year so that management of Paris 2024 has incorporated climate into the operations. And I think this is a major change into how to drive and manage a sports organization. And this is part of what we like to share with the rest of the community of sports.
Thank you so much, Georgina. Dale, I have a question now to you. You are a green energy entrepreneur, of course, the chairman of the Forest Green Rovers since 2011. And FIFA has named the Forest Green Rovers as the world's greenest football club. So now you are really a catalyst for change, and especially for all the football clubs moving towards more sustainability. Can you please explain us how did it start and how now you became really an example for the football industry and for sports, of course?
Yeah, so my journey as an environmentalist using business to bring about, action against the climate crisis led me to identify energy, transport, and food as the three big sectors of life that we have to tackle. Yeah. 80% of everybody's personal carbon footprint is in those things where we make decisions every day, how we power ourselves, how we travel, and what we eat. And so that's my blueprint. And when I rescued Forest Green in 2010, I didn't do it with any real forward thinking. It was just a rescue mission, and it seemed worthwhile. And then I immediately bumped into things in the club and in football more generally that were wrong and had to change. And I quickly realized that the scale of the changes that I needed to make amounted to creating a green football club and to taking this message of sustainability to an audience that were relatively untouched by such things. And that was quite adding to the appeal of doing this, if you like. And it occurred to me that we could use football, we could use the club firstly, but football more generally as a platform to talk to football fans about these issues and get them more aware than they were, get them to change their lives. And 10 years on, we can see the big change has taken place amongst our fan base and in the wider world of football and sport. Our gates, for example, the attendance at our games have gone up 4-fold. Our food sales, and we're vegan, have gone up 6-fold. And our fans have gone veggie vegan. They're buying electric cars and solar panels, and they've embraced the whole green thing. And so where we sit today is we feel we haven't just created a green football club or a new kind of football club. We've created a new kind of football fan. And we've got fan clubs, 100 of them around the world, that have become fans of Forest Green because of our stance on the environment. And we found that football fans, stereotypically, people would think they're not the kind of people you can get on board or talk to about these issues. We found that to be wrong. We found football fans to be just like normal people. And if you put the information in front of them and give them that knowledge and kind of awareness that gives them the chance to change their own lives, they will.
Thank you, Dale. Lindita, I have a question for you. Of course, I mean, signing the pledge is one thing, but how do you keep all those organizations accountable and make sure that they are really fully transparent?
Yes, transparency obviously is a very important aspect. If you look at Sports for Climate Action, I think everybody knows by now that the key word there is really action. Yeah. But within that, of course, to add that stamp of credibility, we also require signatories to report publicly. What we've seen so far is that some reporting is happening, but it's not across the board. So we have worked together within our working groups to develop a way way in which we could get this transparency elevated in this aspect. So what we have right now is a robust kind of reporting mechanism, which we have developed collectively, and it's going to be rolled out in September this year, where, you know, we will be looking to see how are these different organizations approaching different aspects of sustainability, what are they including in their strategies, who is involved in that strategy preparation, development, and delivery, you know, looking at the governance aspects a little bit. But then also to see how are they tackling those issues that I guess Dale mentioned, those key areas where most of the impact comes from, and trying to then use that information to elaborate a little bit more how sports can begin immediately to address these low-hanging fruits, things that are economically attractive and will bring co-benefits, looking at things like, you know, energy efficiency, shifting to renewable energy, building space, prioritizing and choosing goods and services that are provided by companies who are thinking alike or who have a commitment to move towards net zero or a decarbonized economy. So I think there's many ways in which these organizations can start to take action, but of course it's very important for us as well, and I guess for the rest of the world, to ensure that these claims are supported with actions on the ground, and we hope that this reporting mechanism that we'll be launching will be able to articulate this, but at the same time also make it clear for sports organizations that action is happening. You know, it's happening. It's out there. We are on our way, and then try to really scale those best practices as much as possible. So just to wrap this up, I think why we want to use the reporting, number one is, again, to provide that stamp of credibility for their claims. And number two is to use it as an instrument to scale existing best efforts, but at the same time, looking at what are some of the challenges that sports is facing and how we can use the collective power to then address those challenges collectively.
Thank you, Linda. I think in the world of today, you can't fake anything anymore. So that's
right.
Georgina, over to you now. I mean, the games, of course, are really a catalyst for change. How do you want to also inspire the world industry going beyond the games? Can you tell us your vision on this, please?
You know, I'll try to summarize it in sort of 3 practical steps.
Yeah.
The first is actually to reinvent, then to prove it works, and then share it. So when you reinvent, you try to bring together as many stakeholders as possible, you know, public, private, develop innovative solutions, technologies, methodologies, you know, how to do things differently. So you reinvent something. But then you have to deliver on it. You have to prove it works, you know, prove it can be done. This is the sort of thing we are on now. You know, we're still reinventing. We are starting to prove some stuff works, you know, and once something actually works, well, then share it. You know, speak about it, share the tools, empower, and enlarge the circle of actions. Because sports people, you know, athletes, organizations, they're amazingly powerful drivers of change.
Yeah.
So let me give you just some examples on what we're working. Sports for climate action, you know, what Lindita said at the beginning, we were 10 organizations, if my memory is right. We are now sharing experiences with more than 200 of the world leading sports organizations. This is a very powerful network, and we are learning from each other. You know, in the reinvention thing, I mean, we're crossing ideas, we're improving each other by this sharing exercise. You know, and then we are sharing the fact that things can work, so that inspire others to say, oh, well, if they've done it, then maybe I can do it. Right? So this is at the heart of what Sports for Climate Action is today, and how, you know, why it's important for us to be an active part of it. Then another example is the way we buy. You know, for Paris 2024, we start with nothing, we end with nothing. So it was very important to secure a sustainable way of purchasing. You know, and of course, most of the major contracts will be happening in the coming years. But it was important to start already with what we are buying today. Then another example is energy. Our commitment is to be 100% renewables in games time. But we're starting already with our headquarters. And we said, well, we want not only renewable electricity, we want it to be French, and we want to trace it. And actually, we managed to do it. And we work with our partner, EDN, to create the solution to actually deliver that. And as I last, and this is what Dale was saying, food is very important. It's an amazingly important driver of change. So we are drafting now our food vision for 2024, but at the same time, starting with our own canteen, in which we have zero single-use plastic, we have zero organic waste, as examples. So reinvent, prove it works, share it, but do it all along the way, so that every small step can help others in driving change.
Yeah. Thank you, Georgina. Dale, now I have a last question to you. I saw recently you announced a new sustainable player kit. Can you tell us a bit more about this, please, and also maybe tell us what's next?
Yeah, surely. So we began pursuing lower impact material for our first team shirts a couple of years ago, and we introduced bamboo into the mix. So I discovered that, and I was surprised by this, that at that time, and still in fact, that they're 100% made of plastic, which is not a great material for athletic performance and obviously not environmentally either. And there is a move more recently into recycled plastic, which is an improvement, but still it's, I think, a problem. So we introduced a 50-50 bamboo plastic about 2 years ago. And bamboo is a lovely soft material, antimicrobial, it breathes better than plastic, all kinds of things. So we were looking for an athletic performance boost as well as an environment one. And then we kept looking for a better material and recently found coffee grounds, which is a recycled material, so it makes it better than bamboo, which is a virgin material, and it actually performs better than bamboo as well, which is fantastic. So this year we've launched the coffee ground plastic combo, but before we do that in the real world, in about 2 months' time, we've launched a digital version. And I came across digital fashion a couple of months ago and just thought it was quite the end game, really, of how we get to sustainable material for clothing. And if you're not familiar with the concept, basically you have a digital version of anything, a pair of shoes, a shirt, or something like that, and you send your photograph into the company selling that, and they fit you out in the clothes. And then you can use that on social media, where a lot of people are living increasingly more of their lives. And so I think it's probably the lowest impact material that you can have, pixels. And so we launched a pixel first team shirt this year, last week I think it was. And in a couple of months you can buy the real thing in the real world.
Well, that's very inspiring. And I'm sure it's going to give some ideas to many other football clubs or other organizations. All right, so we have 1 minute and a half. Is there a final word you would like to add? Anyone?
Well, from my side, I mean, I just wanted to add, it's great to be amongst friends here, but at the same time, just to say it's really great to listen to Dale, how he, makes climate action and environmental protection really an easy thing to do. And it's, this is the way we should do it. And it's, what are you guys doing? What's the point? There's no point to wait. And I think that's the message that we want to pass on as well, together with Georgina and others who are very actively involved in Sports for Climate Action.
Thank you, Lindita. Georgina?
Well, I think it's, Lindita summarized it very well. I would just add that sports organizations, as I said, has an amazingly powerful driver for change. And every bit counts. So, sports will not be the solution, and this is what Tony was saying, but the bigger a sports organization are, the more important it will be that each takes its part. Yeah. And make it vocal and show that solutions are possible for sports, but for everyone else.
Very true. Dale, a last word, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that the UN program Sport for Climate Action, I think, is a fantastic initiative. It is a chance to engage the entire world of sport. Billions of people are sports fans, and we get to reach them this way. And as Georgina said, we started with 10 organizations, and we're nearly 250 now. I think also the Paris Olympics is an amazing opportunity as a platform to showcase the things that sport can do in the fight against the climate crisis. So I'm just super excited to be involved with both of those things, and thank you to both of you for all of your efforts.
Well, I'm also very thankful to share this conversation with you. So Georgina, Lindita, Dale, thank you very much for everything, for your authentic commitment, and let's keep going.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, so now let's move to our second section. We will now talk how sports is very useful to really build a peaceful world. So I'm very happy to welcome today a great team of panelists. As you know, the UN General Assembly has recently mentioned that we cannot achieve sustainable development without peace and without safety, of course. And today, I mean, the numbers are really critical. There are more than 80 million of people who have been forced to leave their homes because of violence, because of bribery, and so more. So today, we have a great roster of panelists, and I would like to start by inviting Céline. Céline, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can you maybe introduce you, please, in a few minutes?
Yes, of course. I work for UNHCR, which is the UN Refugee Agency. I'm currently head of external relations and spokesperson for UNHCR in France, but I've been working for the organization for 14 years in various countries in Africa, but also in Geneva, where our headquarters is located.
Thank you very much. With us remotely, we also have Marlene. Hello, Marlene. Good morning.
Thank you for having me on the panel.
Can you please introduce yourself?
To introduce myself, my name is Marlene. I'm a former Olympic medalist in Taekwondo, and I'm a champion for peace representing the Peace in Sport organization.
Thank you, Marlene. Jerroen?
Yes, good afternoon to all. My name is Jerroen Carrin. I am the Senior Programs Manager at the Olympic Refuge Foundation, which is a foundation based here in Lausanne, Switzerland, and established in 2017 by the International Olympic Committee as a result of its long-standing support to refugees and displaced people across the world. Thank you for having me on this panel. Happy to be here and look forward to discussion.
Thank you, pleasure. Also, Hussam. Good morning, Hussam. Welcome. Peux-tu te présenter, Hussam, s'il te plaît? Ouais. Très bien. Merci, Hussam. Today, we know that sports play a real crucial role in addressing, of course, those issues and in building, of course, a peaceful world. Céline, can you tell us a bit more about exactly the issue, what we talk about, and how you are addressing these issues with the work you're doing?
Yes, of course. And as you mentioned, today, 80 million people are displaced because of war, because of conflict, because of persecution. Internally displaced in their country, but also some have been forced, more than 29 million have been forced to cross a border and are now refugees. They have been forced to flee their country. It's the highest number since the creation of UNHCR. So the situation today is really a situation of where everyone has to make a difference to find solutions, and therefore partnerships are so important, because among the people who are displaced, many of them are children. Nearly half of the 80 million people who are displaced are children. some can't go to schools, and now with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, the situation is even more dire. And we really have seen consequences on the access of education to children, for example, because of closure of schools, because also of poverty and parents not being able anymore to pay for education fees to send their kids to school. So the situation really requires everyone to do something and partners to work together. And in that context, of course, sports is very important. As I said, for children, because sports can help them to heal, can help them to build their future. And therefore, I'm very happy to be able to discuss with our panel today on what else can be done and what can we do together.
Thank you, Céline. Jerroen, I have a question to you now. Can you tell us and describe in more details the work you're doing and the action you're doing with the Olympic Refugee Foundation?
Sure. So after the first ever Refugee Olympic team competed in the Rio 2016 Olympics, the International Olympic Committee then made a long-term strategic commitment to support the protection, development, and empowerment of displaced young people through sport by launching the foundation. So, as our name suggests, the Olympic Refuge Foundation is very much part and parcel of the Olympic movement, and the main goal of that movement is to contribute to building a better world through sport. However, it is an undeniable fact that many young people around the world are excluded from this opportunity because they have been displaced from their home by conflict, persecution, natural disaster, climate change, just to name but a few. So we firmly believe that sport is unique in how it can help displaced young people not only gain a sense of belonging, but also develop the key life skills and values that are needed to thrive and lead a happy and fulfilling life and to contribute to building a better world. But nevertheless, we have to conclude that unfortunately today, sport is not being utilized to its full potential. And it is often assumed that sport is limited to elite pathways or role modeling rather than intentional design and delivery to reach those that are most in need. So our work is all about improving that access to sport for young displaced people, which we believe, if done right, can lead to tangible benefits and create a strong foundation for life. In fact, the vision of the Olympic Refuge Foundation is a society where everyone belongs through sport. And our ambition is for 1 million young displaced people to access safe sport by 2024. Now, how do we want to achieve this ambitious goal? Well, it certainly can't be done alone. And so to use a sports analogy, we play in a team composed of a diverse set of partners or teammates who all share a common goal for young displaced people to belong and thrive through sport. Each team member plays a different role and brings different skills to help them succeed. We have, of course, first and foremost, the young displaced people themselves who are essential contributors to our work. And it is a fundamental principle of our foundation to involve them at all stages in our programs. But there's also the IOC being the flag bearer of the team, the guardian of the movement and of the Olympic values. There's UNHCR and other organizations in the development and humanitarian world. And of course, our role as the Olympic Refuge Foundation is threefold. It's as a coach to develop and exchange capacity, as a commentator to promote the stories and advocate for sport, and as the crowd to shape the movement and act as a catalyst for change. And then, of course, we play by a game plan, tactics to achieve victory. So we work through sport programs, of course, but we also mobilize partners, we advocate, we learn and place a lot of importance on evidence-based decision-making, and we innovate the way sport is used to achieve social outcomes. And if we do that, we can start seeing those benefits that we seek, meaning improved mental health and physical health of young refugees, improved skills and behaviors that allow them to protect themselves, and newly established networks and connections so that in the longer run, we can expect to see change in how sport is embedded in national protection responses.
Thank you very much, Jerroen. Marlene, I would like to come to you now. The NGO Peace and Sports is really fighting for peace and justice and using sport as a platform. Can you please tell us a bit more exactly about the initiatives and the action you're doing, and maybe an example like the refugee camp in Xhaferi or maybe others?
So Peace in Sport is a neutral and international organization that promotes peace using the power of sport. It was founded in the Valley of Monaco by modern pentathlon Olympic medalist and world champion Mr. Jerroen in 2007, and is placed under the high patronage of His Serene Highness Prince Albert II. For the last 14 years, we have been acting worldwide with complete neutrality and independence due to the status enjoyed by Monaco. And we also promote collaborative action, and we partner, for instance, with the Council of Europe, UNHCR, UNESCO, and more than 50 different sport bodies. The United Nations Secretary General also highlighted 6 of our activities as best practices in his latest report regarding the contribution of sport to the 2030 agenda. So at Peace in Sport, we take concrete actions to prove the federating, educational, and social impact of sport by running an annual white card campaign on April 6th, the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. And this year, we have reached over 117 million people worldwide. We've also organized 13 Peace in Sport international forums, and we promote the Peace in Sport methodology on the field. Recently, we developed the first digital tool that provides peace-building programs through sport and launched a mobile application called Peace in Sport by My Coach. It can be used worldwide, and it brings together educational content in the form of tutorial videos and documents. The app is also available in 3 languages, French, English, and Spanish, and offers 2 sport methodologies, football and rugby for now. And in each sport session, the goal is to promote positive values that are essential to peace building in 3 cycles. So the first one is to work on yourself, then accept each other, and finally live together. That can be completed over the course of 2 years. Right now, the app is currently used by 10 NGOs in 10 countries, and we have trained over 200 peace educators, and over 2,000 children benefit from this program. So this unique sport methodology was developed in various field programs, such as the Live Together program in the Xhaferi refugee camp in Jordan that you previously mentioned. Since 2017, the Live Together program introduced sport as an innovative tool to tackle the social issues affecting refugees in this camp. 3 sports are currently implemented thanks to partnerships with the ITTF Foundation, WACO, and FIPTEC. And the program is also supported by UNHCR and the Jordan Olympic Committee. And as of now, there are 6 Syrian refugees were trained to the Peace in Sport methodology to become peace educators. And every day, more than 350 children benefit from the program, including 100 girls.
So that's impressive. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you.
Hussam, as a journalist and a Syrian refugee, can you tell us a bit more about the work you're doing today?
Oui, my story with Change Sport is very interesting, and thank you for this chance for speak this. I arrived on France 2 years ago, and I wicked, I enjoyed lonely, anxious, because my family was staying in Syria. I lost all my qualification. I had studied several academic diplomas, and I'm very athletic. I was a national kickboxing champion what time in Syria, but that great change in my life make me move forward to a world with a big difference in very lifestyle. Our days often would hit the refugee in shock and make them choose isolation and fear that only enter society at the minimum level according to law. But thanks to sport, my physiological composition began to change, and I was encouraged to start again because that give me hope to building a new life and benefit for my experience here at this point was beginning change and overcome all the physiological and physical physiology limitation of war in Syria. During I saw 100 corpses and buried most of my friends, and you realize how hard it was here the first cries of my friends' mothers when I told them of her son death. But sport helped me overcome all of this and give me hope. But that doesn't not say easy. There are really difficult during sport due to the ring staying, the culture and the lifestyle is different and difficult. For example,
thank you, Hussam, for sharing your story. Hussam, I have a question for Céline now, but thank you for sharing your story.
Vas-y.
Céline, I know you have an ambition to help more than 1 million refugees by 2024. Can you describe us the projects or some concrete action you're doing?
Yes, of course. We're working with different partners to allow refugees to have access to sports and allow refugee kids to have access to sports. But maybe one initiative I can share with you as well, which is linked to an experience I've had in the Northern Democratic Republic of Congo at the border with Central African Republic, and it really shows how sports can make a difference. I've worked there in 2013, 2014, and hundreds, thousands of refugees arrived, in a few days, and many of them were young people living in the capital city of Central African Republic, and out of a sudden they were forced to flee their life, their city. They arrived in a remote part of the DRC where they had to start everything again. And first, what we provide as UNHCR is an emergency assistance, because that's the most urgent thing. We have to do it in terms of shelter, food, access to health. But they were willing to have more, very quickly. So sports was something very important for them. And one of the sports that was introduced was capoeira, for example. And it helped young people to heal, but also to create cohesion with the local communities. So that's one example. And as Jerroen said, all of that was built together with refugees, because it's very important to work together with refugees. And some of them, wrote to us even lately and wrote to me last year saying, we've discovered that sport, we brought it back to Bangui when we returned home, because some of them returned, and now we're using it to build peace in our country. And that was really a message of hope. But a second partnerships I also wanted to mention this morning, because it's very new. It was launched yesterday. So we are teaming with PSG, the Paris Saint-Germain football club, but also Klabu, which is a Dutch NGO, to build sports equipment centers in refugee camps, because access to equipment is also something very important. When you travel to countries hosting refugees and to refugee camps, you can often see, people playing sports, football. Yeah, but access to equipment is an issue. So that new project is great, and the involvement of a club like PSG, a new partnership is very important to continue and develop our projects and bring that possibility to refugees to have access to sport, but also to the host communities, because the countries hosting refugees, the majority of them are neighboring the countries where the refugees come from, and host communities often also face challenges, and young people in those countries also face challenges. And it's by bringing everyone together and helping everyone that we will be able to build a better future and make sure, help reaches everyone.
Of course. Well, congratulations for this initiative, and hopefully you will be able to scale. Jerroen, I have a question for you. Of course, sport is a fantastic tool for inclusion, social development. Can you tell us other examples that you're doing on the day-to-day basis to address those issues?
Sure. So the Olympic Refuge Foundation has a global reach, and we started our first projects in DR Congo, Rwanda, and Mexico, followed by Jordan, Turkey, and Kenya, where programs are still running. And last year, despite COVID, we launched in Uganda. And this year, we're looking at new programs in Colombia, France, and hopefully Bangladesh. So to cite Uganda as an example, where last summer we launched the Game Connect program, which is a nationwide sport for protection program aimed at improving the mental health of over 10,000 young refugees and their hosts. So it's a 3-year program, which was co-designed and currently co-implemented by a diverse consortium of partners. So we have a couple of international NGOs, we have a local NGO, we have the UNHCR, part of the consortium, we have the Uganda Olympic Committee. And we believe it is through such diverse partnerships that we can really leverage each other's expertise and networks and reach the objectives, which in this case, for this program, were for youth to gain improved skills and capacities so they can support their own mental health and psychosocial well-being, to apply these skills in daily life, for youth to develop new networks, social and support networks, including with people from diverse backgrounds. In many of these refugee settlements in Uganda, we have up to 10 different nationalities coexisting. And also a goal is for local authorities and eventually national authorities to appreciate and advocate for using sports as a protection mechanism. So to achieve these results, we developed a facilitator's manual, and this resource is being used throughout the Game Connect program to develop the capacities of coaches. It details some 60 practical sport activities specifically designed or developed for the Ugandan refugee context. I think it's also worthwhile mentioning our planned activities in France, seeing where the ChangeNOW summit is currently being held, because whereas of course, 86% of all displaced people worldwide have sought refuge in lower and middle income countries. That still leaves 11% that are in high income countries, such as France. Actually, that means about 300,000 refugee and asylum seekers in France, half of which are in the Ile-de-France region. And so we have teamed up with the Ministry of Sport to launch a call for expression of interest for partners in the Greater Paris area to team up and to improve the access to sport for these refugees and asylum seekers in Paris. Okay. But of course, it's not just about programs, as I mentioned before. We also have to use the other tactics. We have to achieve collective action. And so with that in mind, the Sport Coalition for Refugees that we co-convened with the UNHCR at the Global Refugee Forum in 2019 brings together more than 80 partners who all pledged to increase access for refugees to sport. And our role is really there to help shape this movement so that more governments, more policymakers, more NGOs can see the benefits of sport and understand how best to embed it in their approach and their response.
Thank you very much, Jerroen. Now I would like to talk about the power of athletes for peace. And maybe my first question is to you, Marlene. Of course, as an Olympic and former athletes, can you tell us how you leverage all the amazing list of athletes you have with peace and sports, and exactly how you engage with them?
Of course. At Peace in Sport, in all of our missions, we count on the commitment of more than 119 champions for peace that represents over 40 countries.
Okay.
The Champions for Peace are athletes who demonstrate that sport goes beyond performance and act as a source of inspiration for younger generation. Through our combined action, we show that sport plays a positive role in society by creating dialogue, social cohesion, and it contributes to build more inclusive, safe, and peaceful communities around the world. To support Peace in Sports vision, Champions for Peace contribute in several ways. By leading field programs, by raising public awareness and advocacy speech during international events, and they all gathered to support the White Card campaign on April 6th, the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. The Champion for Peace Club was created in 2009 and welcomes new athletes every year. Amongst them are the football legends Lionel Messi and Steve Drogba, or the South African rugby captain and world champion Siya Kolisi. But each of them has a very powerful and inspiring story. Yeah. For instance, founded 17 years ago by the former French rugby player, the Serge Betsen Academy, has trained over 7,000 children in 6 centers. Hadi Talidje, Champion for Peace, who co-founded the first women football team in Palestine and contributes to empower women and promote gender equity. There's also Laurence Fischer, Champion for Peace and 3 times karate world champion, who founded the NGO Fight for Dignity to allow women victims of violence to rebuild self-confidence through martial art workshops. And finally, the most famous example is when during a civil war in Ivory Coast, football superstar Didier Drogba scored a goal that qualified the country for the first time to the World Cup. And he got all his teammates to bend down on their knees and make a historical call for peace, which contributed to end a civil war and unite an entire nation. So these are examples of the power of the champions can have.
Thank you, Marlene. I have a question to you, Céline, now. Can you also highlight some example of athletes that have you been working with?
Yes, of course, and athletes who sometimes have been refugees as well. So we are working with a wide range of supporters to help us mobilize support, to help us raise awareness. And we have not yet mentioned that, but raising awareness through sport is also something very important. And sports is such a good tool, a great tool to raise awareness. And that's so important in our societies today. So among the athletes who are supporters we're working with and who have had a past history about being forced to flee their countries. We have, for example, the swimmer Yousra Mardini, who is a Syrian refugee, whose story became famous because she crossed the Mediterranean Sea and she had to jump in the water to push the boat she was on. And she was part of the Refugee Olympic team in Rio in 2016. She was the youngest Goodwill Ambassador ever appointed by UNHCR, and she's working together with us to raise awareness, raise support. But also another athlete who also has been part of the Olympic refugee team is Yekpur Bil, and he visited Paris in 2016. He came here as well to raise support for young refugees. He was forced to flee South Sudan when he was a kid, and he has now received a scholarship to study in the United States. You may have seen as well, recently we've appointed a football player as a Goodwill Ambassador team, who is Alfonso Davis, who has helped us also to raise support for access to education of refugee kids. And as I mentioned before, this is really one of our urgent priorities. What is great with those athletes, and I can't mention them all, and those supporters, is that they also inspire people and they bring hope. And that's also something very important, to bring hope, to show that building a better future is possible, and that together we can do things together with various partners, the partners who are here today, NGOs, governments, and to bring hope and to find solutions for refugees, because that's urgent today, is to find solutions, because the number of people displaced is the highest ever, but also the number of solutions are decreasing because displacement is longer and there are less solutions, and we have to work together to find solutions.
Thank you, Céline. I know we have a limited time and we're already over our session, so I mean, it's a very interesting topic and we can talk for hours, obviously. But I would like to thank you all, Marlene, Jerroen, Hussam, and Céline, for everything, for sharing your best practice, your ideas, and the action you're doing every day. So thank you for your commitment and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.